Thou who art the Lord of all the nations, thou who didst descend upon the apostles in spirit and in power, we humbly pray you to give us that inspiration and that guidance, that our thoughts, our feelings, our words and our actions may be in harmony with thy holy will. And all may take place here today, may lead us through the eternal light of thy truth, and be sanctified from pleasing in thy sight, being mindful of our heritage as Scots, and of St Andrew, the patron of our nation of Scotland. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks very much for that, Ken. Hello and welcome to Loudenhill. It's been a couple of years since we've had this event, and it's good to see a nice wee turnout. We've certainly got a fantastic day for the event. I'm not going to bore you with long-winded speeches, but this is a unique occasion in the history of Scotland, because it's the only time that we will gather here on a battlefield that was graced by both William Wallace and King Robert the Bruce. Aye, the English might have had their thousands, their smugness and their arrogance, but what they didn't have was Wallace, Bruce and Douglas. And without fighters like that, they were lost. For Wallace, this was a battle that he took part in to get revenge and slay the person that killed his father. For Bruce, he needed a victory here to consolidate the victory that he had won at Glentrool just a couple of months before. And I'd like now to invite up George Kempick of the Society of William Wallace to give us a few words.
So, Gordon Mason Gordon is I'm about to do that. Hello everyone, and thank you all for coming to this magnificent and historic amphitheatre to remember two of Scotland's greatest heroes. As most of you will be aware, this is usually the first of our commemorations, but made all the more special today as it's our first coming out of the restrictions placed upon us by COVID. My focus in this address is going to be myths, legends and folklore. I, as a member of the Society of William Wallace, know fine well how much we depend on myth, legend and folklore to tell the story of Sir William Wallace. So much so that in the telling of his story, in that well-known Hollywood documentary film, which not only promoted the realms of the William Wallace myths and legends, it created some new ones. Of course, I'm talking about Braveheart. We never like to decry the whole of the film, just certain aspects. Although, really, who are we to knock Hollywood's attempt to rekindle the fires of Scottish independence? And that's exactly what that film did. And I, for one, thank Mel Gibson wholeheartedly for that. But in the words of the famous song, where was the river, Mel? Over the years, I've spent quite a considerable time looking for facts about Sir William Wallace. This is 15 pages long, by the way. There isn't really much documented, and what is there are mostly vague references to where he was, deeds he done, and people he met during his far too short life. Most of these ghost facts are referenced in a document described into a book form for the famous Blind Harry. The book was a lengthy poem recounting the life of William Wallace.
written around 1477, 172 years after Wallace's death. Now Harry was actually blind. He wouldn't have written this himself, but Harry was a man who followed in the ancient oral tradition of passing on the stories of the past with public recitals. No Facebook then. The modern day historians may question such accounts, but in doing so, they are looking at history and the recording of that history in a very unhistorian friendly fashion, in my opinion. These storytellers were the historians of their time, and it's my understanding that they took their position in society very seriously. They weren't the Coronation Street of their time, more like the Panorama. I genuinely could listen more questions about Wallace facts than actual documented facts. But for me, it's about not so much what you might want to blindly believe, but what you choose and live to believe. We don't know when he was born precisely. There are two claims to his place of birth. Of course there are. And I bet somewhere in America there's a third claim. All his cousins appear to live there. We don't really know what he looked like or what size he was. But we believe he was almost 7 feet tall, able to shoot fireballs. No, I'll stop there. We have his sword in view at the Stirling Wallace Monument, which was left at Dumbarton Castle after his capture. And even that has a cloud hanging over it. Some say he was of Welsh extraction, with various theories to support that. So what do we believe or know? We believe he was born around 1270 to 1275. No one can produce an exact date, but if you think about one fact, we do know for sure the date of Wallace's death in 1305. Even taking the earliest date of his birth, that would have made him 35, but possibly only 30 when he was murdered. Such a young age to create such a legacy. We believe he was born in Elderslie in Renfrewshire. Well, that's where the massive commemoration monument is. We believe his father was Sir Malcolm Wallace. We believe he was the second son of Malcolm, meaning he would not inherit the status and belongings of his father and was probably destined to go into priesthood. We know he was educated at Dunipace under the tutelage of his uncle and finished his education in Dundee, where he first made a name for himself, killing an Englishman. I'm sure it was nothing personal, and was proclaimed an outlaw. Later ambushing an English convoy on his way to Ayr at Loudenhill in 1296. We know who he was made Guardian of Scotland after the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297, which he commanded with Andrew de Murray. Some say had Andrew de Murray lived, he would have been the name we would all be remembering here today. Personally, I'm not so sure. After all, he wasn't here, even though he is today. That's Andrew behind me.
I'm feeling better.
Wallace had staying power and tenacity, and the storytellers, the people's historians, recorded it so. We also know that at Falkirk in 1298, Wallace was defeated, possibly because he didn't have the expertise of Andrew de Murray by his side, but most probably because Longshank used Welsh bowmen for the first time in a major battle, and Wallace's horsemen had long since left the battle to save their lives in colours. Page 12. The battlefield being another point of conjecture, with various opinions about where the dead lie. Amongst them, although buried in the grounds of Trinity Church with Sir John de Graham and Sir John Stewart, we also know that Wallace escaped. You all know what happened after that. He was betrayed at Rutherglen Church, captured at Royston, and taken to London for a show trial and execution on the 23rd of August 1305. Earlier I said this was our first commemoration since the COVID restrictions were lifted. That's true, except for a rather hard work for an amazing unveiling we did at the Wallace Oak Monument over in Port Glasgow, which, if you haven't been to visit, please make it one of your things to do this summer. That's also a story not properly documented, but again passed down through local folklore, and definitely not to be discounted because of that. The monument marks the spot where an oak tree grew. This oak tree was reputed to have been used to chain Wallace while waiting on his escort to be taken to London, where he would be put through a sham trial and ultimately murdered. We are proud not only of the work done by the Greenup crew in getting the monument made, sited, but also for helping to secure a measure of confirmation of the story of the oak and its biggest historical hurdle, proving its age, which has been done with the help, oh, how did I write this word? Anyway, it has been done with the help of a leading dendrochronologist, Dr. Cornelia Mills. So, as I said, it's not so much how much is known or what you believe to be fact, it's more about what you believe in. That's enough. And it is what has inspired millions of people throughout the centuries. Burns wrote, "Scots were hae wi' Wallace bled. They did, and they still bleed." He also wrote, "By oppressions, woes and pains,